Welcome back. My name is Cindy, and on this channel, I help you to pinpoint ways on how to improve your romantic and parental relationships. But in this video, I will be reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 12, Episode 8. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, and click that notification bell. So this week we are going to get started with my favorite couple, Vincent and Brianna. As I had suspected last episode, production was trying to create drama with their minor argument. I mean, he did threaten to go home, and we saw that he left the apartment, but he actually came back. He didn't stay out. He just needed some time to calm down and, collect himself. They were able to have a conversation at the beginning of this episode. Vincent ended up sitting down with his friend, and he was telling his friend how he was trying to be smooth and bring the champagne so he can surprise Brianna. But then, the champagne went everywhere and he felt completely embarrassed. So when Brianna made that comment, it was just like he was already feeling embarrassed, and then she made that comment. So it made him feel some type of way. I'm mad his friend started laughing in his face. He was like, dude, you really left because of that? Like, it's not that serious. And he was telling him, get out of your own head, and to not expect that Brianna's going to react the way he would react in situations. He mentioned how, Brianna's very direct. He, on the other hand, likes to be more so gentle, and he wants to not hurt her feelings. The way he communicates is that he's just trying to navigate and say the right thing so he doesn't upset his wife. And, that's understandable, but at the same time, it does come across like he's kind of sensitive. They need to continue to have these open conversations with each other. Shutting down and walking away is not the appropriate way to handle situations. His friend, advised him to respond in a better manner and to not shut down because, Brianna's a good girl and he doesn't want him to mess it up. So his friend is definitely rooting for them. During this episode, they had their families come over for a little housewarming gathering, and we meet Vinny's mom for the first time. He mentioned how she wasn't at the wedding, and we learned that she doesn't really speak English that well. So it was really nice to see that Brianna was putting in the effort, saying a couple of things in Spanish, trying to connect with his family. At first, it seemed like his mom was a little standoffish, but she started to warm up to Brianna. And Brianna's mom, when she first sat down, she made mention that Brianna is a lot. And I don't even know why moms do that. Like, they always say things that are just not necessary in the moment. Like, she didn't have to say that. But everybody was getting along. Brianna came up with this game. I thought initially it was 2 truths and a lie, but it ended up turning into like a game where they were asking their family members questions about themselves and seeing who would get the right answer. And they mentioned how their dream vacation is to go to Africa, which was pretty awesome. They seem to be having a good time. And his mom even said, welcome to the family. So they are moving in the right direction. They didn't get much camera time this episode, but I did enjoy the times that they were on the screen. So I can't wait to see how things continue to unfold for them. Next, we have Haley and Jacob. Haley sat down with the girls and she said that things are going okay and that they're trying. I'm still getting the vibe that she doesn't like Jacob, but she's going to go through the process anyway and make it through the next couple of weeks. She sat down with her friend, and her friend was, asking her a couple of questions, and she was telling her friend about how he's obsessed with the 80s and how she didn't like the outfits he had bought for the honeymoon. And her friend was like, okay, so he doesn't dress well. What else is there? She didn't give her friend much of a reason why she doesn't like him. She attempted to tell her friend about the situation where she made Jake feel left out, but she wasn't taking any accountability. It was almost like, oh, well, I was with the girls and the guys came. I mean, girl, you're lying. Like, the guys didn't come along. You just didn't want to bring Jake. But her friend was feeling like she was, BSing. So her friend encouraged her to definitely put in her best. They also had a get together. Her friends came over, his friends came over, and his friend was, letting Haley know that he doesn't take subtle cues, that you need to be direct, and which I think we could see. He wants her to be a straight shooter and just let him know what's going on, whether it's good or bad. He would rather her just be upfront and honest with him instead of shutting down. Her friends was telling him how she basically likes to just run from situations. Like in previous relationships, when things started to get serious, she would run the other way. She doesn't really have much relationship experience. So I think the experts need to really step in and help her to navigate the relationship. They discovered, besides having dogs, they both have a love for boats. So hopefully they will take some adventures together and Haley will open up to him. I do feel like there is potential. I mean, Jake is really into Haley and he wants to make it work, but it's really up to her at this point. His friend mentioned how Jake wears his heart on his sleeve and that he's a very stand-up guy. And I think, we can see that. Initially, I just thought he was a little quirky, but he's really growing on me, and I hope that Haley will open up and give him a chance. Next, we have Eric and Virginia. At the beginning of the episode, Virginia was gone for a couple of days. Eric was babysitting her dog, and it's weird to me because it's like she seems to be out and about all the time, but then she has all of these pets. So I wonder how she takes care of all of her pets when she's always partying and hanging out with her friends. I feel like Eric is trying to be, a protective husband, but she's making it out to seem like he's a control freak, and their vibe is very weird. I feel like Eric is like trying to hold on to something that's not there. I'm not here for Virginia's energy. She gives me college girl vibes, and she just really isn't ready for marriage. And then they had their housewarming, and it was just like a bunch of guys. Like her guy friends came over. He had a couple of guy friends come over, and it was just a whole bunch of guys. She was the only female there. And then one of her guy friends pulls him off to the side. And when I say side, they walked through like 50 doors to go outside. He was basically advising Eric to not be so controlling and to understand that Virginia is a very independent person and, she likes to hold her own. He started to say that they party every night, but then he caught himself and said, they party every weekend. And Eric was explaining to him that he hopes that, she kind of grows out of that. I mean, even when Eric met up with his own friend, he was telling Eric how he shouldn't treat this experience as a coaching session. Eric does come off as a know-it-all sometimes, and he does try to make it seem like he knows all there is to know about being married. But clearly you don't have it all figured out because you were divorced and now you're on this show. And so Eric does need to take a step back. I just don't think that they're a match. And as much as Eric is trying to do whatever he can to please Virginia, it's just, I don't see how it's going to work out. She's not planning to give up her party ways anytime soon. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this unfolds. Next, we have Ryan and Clara. Clara is a sexually frustrated, point blank period. She feels like Ryan is moving at a very slow pace. She complained about it in her confessionals. She complained about it with the other girls. Even when like they were having the get together, she just busted out and was like, "Oh, I have never seen my husband without his shirt off." And it was like an awkward moment, but you could tell she just wants him to lay it down and he's not trying to go there. And she's getting tired of him, calling himself an old man, which I could agree, like that is kind of annoying. Claire was telling the girls how they had went to her friend's birthday party and, they kept offering Ryan to take a Jello shot, but he wasn't feeling it. So she learned really quickly that when Ryan says no, he means no. Ryan did admit that he needs to loosen up and learn to live in the moment. I am wondering if he is going to actually, let loose a little bit, but they have a really odd dynamic. I mean, with their friends, they keep saying how things are okay and things are good. but they don't seem to agree on much, and she's clearly frustrated with him. So I'm not sure how this is going to pan out. So here we go with Chris and Paige. Why is Chris still on our TV screen? Can somebody tell me? Like, I don't get it. He just irks my nerves. Chris sits down with his pastor and, he's letting them know what was going on, how, he found out that his ex-fiance was pregnant and how he is asking to get a divorce. His pastor is trying to come down on him and lecture him about how Paige is a great person and that he's making a big mistake. But it's like, you don't even know Paige. You don't even really know what's going on. And he was saying how Chris needs to be married. No, Chris needs to go sit down with a therapist. That's what Chris needs to do. And at this point, he has already made up his mind. He's not worried about what anybody has to say, whether or not Paige is a good girl, not a good girl. He doesn't care. So I don't even understand why they are like trying to coerce him into reconsidering his options with Paige. And then Chris calls Paige and tells her they need to meet so he can clear the air. And I'm like, clear the air for who? Who are you clearing the air for? What is going on? I am convinced that this whole situation has been staged for just ratings. It's just like they all look ridiculous. She tells him that she has to pray about it and think about it. It's like, what is there to really think about? Why are you even answering this man's calls? I mean, I don't even understand what is going on. She says that she wants to protect her peace and her spirit and her soul. But it's like, if that was the case, why are you still dealing with Chris? Girl, what are you even talking about? What you say does not match your actions. Like, you say all of these things, but then you do something completely opposite. She agrees to sit down with Chris and this ex-fiance, and she's like, oh, she's going to take her power back. It's like, what power? Like, am I missing something? What is she talking about? I feel like she's like delusional at this point. So they sit down and she's like grinning from ear to ear. And she starts talking to the ex-fiance as if that's her homegirl. And then they start talking about how they're both very confused. And, Paige says that she has these lingering feelings. And it's like, girl, what don't you get? He does not want you. And even when the ex-fiance mentioned that she's not really here to get back together with Chris, here goes Paige all happy and smiling. It's like, so if he's being rejected by the ex-fiance, are you willing at this point to take him back? Like, I'm confused. And she's like, oh, that's what he gets. Look at him. No, but it's really like, look at you. Chris was sitting there annoyed. He was getting upset. Paige mentions that she had a fear of being pregnant. Like, I'm convinced that she probably tried to get pregnant just so she could have a stake in the game. And it's like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you look hella crazy and you're sitting here. Like, what is the point of all of this? Why are they sitting together? Why are they even still on the show? And based on the previews, they're going to be on the show again next episode. And it's just like, they are dragging this out. And I don't understand why. I don't want to see them on my screen anymore. Like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to know anything else. Just wait until decision day like they did with Brett and Olivia so they can just close that chapter and move on. Paige needs a therapist. Chris needs a therapist. The fiance probably needs one too. I don't know what Married at First Sight is doing this season, but I just can't stop watching. So be sure to join me here next week, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.